Hello, my name is Naimur Rahman. I'll be leading this discussion in terms of the problem solving we must do today. With me, I have Rory Brady. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. I have Joey Lopez. Thank you for coming. I have Daniel Vernier. Thank you for coming. All right, so first things first, with the diverse set of people we have in this committee, our goal is to be analyzing and solving a problem. So first and foremost, let's define and explain said problem. So our high school has been given the opportunity to have a third world president come into our high school and shadow an average student for the day. And our goal is, we have 5 students that we currently have, and as you see around you, I provided you guys some dossiers about each student. And with that, we're going to have to be narrowed down and choose the right one. So now that we've defined the problem, our most important thing is to establish that criteria. So what constitutes an average student? I'm going to have all of you guys talk about it. I'll give my definition, but let's start with Daniel.
Okay, so one of the things I think that defines an average student is just being active in some kind of activity. A lot of people at school, they have one thing that they fall into, or at least one thing they fall into. People fall into clubs, they fall into certain things. So if we see people that are very active in the school, if they're in art or they're in theater or they're in some kind of activity that they fall in line to, I feel like that definitely defines a student as average.
Average. For me personally, yes, that also has to do with that. I don't think that they should be top of their class, very smart. Those people, obviously, they're great students and everything like that, and they would be great for the president to shadow, but at the same time, it needs to be an average kid. Someone that's not necessarily an outlier that works super hard, but at the same time, keep in mind, this is a foreign leader of a third world country. You need to show some respect, and a student that is responsible or shows responsibility in their regard. And Joey, what's your definition?
I definitely think that with an average student, they have a sense of drive and motivation. And so you can't have a student who doesn't know what they want to do. And so I definitely think that this student should show potential and show like a lot of growth.
I will say, you could argue the other side of that. Like, there are a lot of students who, even going into college, they don't know what they're going to do, but eventually after that first year of college. So, it kind of depends, but I definitely see where you're coming from.
Rory?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with, Daniel's point of view. I think they should be, involved in some kind of activities. They should also have, kind of A-B average, because that's pretty average. I mean,
it's a good quantifiable way to measure it.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we have our definition of average teenager, I guess we need to come to a consensus. So we're saying basically somebody that's not necessarily above the top, but is driven, right? Or at least shows that they care about high school.
Yeah,
they have to do something, right? They don't have to be the smartest person in the pack. They don't have to be necessarily lower tier. But with that, it could also arise some problems. And with that, we need to figure out, obviously, like I said before, it is a high school student with a third world foreign leader.
Right.
So there is some problems that could be happening. Basically, what could arise with that? So, for instance, let's say the average student isn't necessarily good in their grades. What will the foreign leader see in that representation of an average student?
I mean, we definitely need to represent ourselves in a way that's professional. I mean, especially when you're talking about a foreign, world leader, you want to show them the life of an average student, but you also want them to feel welcome and feel comfortable in the environment. You don't want them to have some student that might act out or might do something that would push the leader away in understanding our culture.
Right. Joey?
I definitely think that with this foreign leader, that they should definitely, they should feel almost like a sense of, I would say they should feel like they should know what the student is about. Like they should show, they should see a clear path to the student and be able to feel that oh, this person, they know what they want to do, and that they can definitely you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so in a sense, it goes back to being driven, right?
Yeah,
right. So it's just somebody that also, they obviously have great, manners. They have manners, they understand the idea of respect, they understand that they should be, they should understand the situation they're in. Right? If you're with a foreign leader, you need to show that you're very gracious for the opportunity, that you're not necessarily, you're just acting normal. Because you have to act a little bit above normal, because we're sort of at a higher tolerance, even though I guess the definition of average would not kind of suffice in that regard, but
but
it's kind of a relative
they
thing.
need to have a responsible mindset with regards to this.
Yeah, Rory, are there any problems that you can see?
no.
I mean, not necessarily, right? I mean, I think it goes to, we just evaluate each person by dossier, and with that, we figure out what that is. So I guess let's begin that. Let's look at each person on a case-by-case basis, and let's just talk about their pros, like the good things about them, their cons, some possibilities, and where we could, rank them. And at the end, we'll all choose our top 2, and then we'll, debate it from there on.
Okay.
So first off, let's talk about Ling Cho. She's a senior. She's an A+ student. She's in line for valedictorian, accepted to Harvard and Yale. She's somewhat shy, but she adapts to various social situations easily. She has few friends because she spends most of her time studying. She competes in science fair activities. She tutors math students. She wants to take the leader to the Museum of Natural Science. Obviously, Ling Cho is a very, very talented student.
Yes.
She's very smart. She's in line to do great things.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, though, does she constitute as an average student? Rory?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, like, your average student isn't, like, accepted to Harvard and Yale and isn't, like, an A-plus student and valedictorian.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. There's a little, like we talked about, this doesn't meet that requirement of, like, not being an outlier. Like, we want somebody who, you know, just kind of falls in line with the other students so that they don't see them as, you know, standing out above.
Right.
I don't know how to properly word that.
I definitely think that she does, because she does tutor math students, that she does show like, you know, like she wants to help out other people and like use her skill, like talents for something that's good. But I don't think that with her being so much shy and, you know, having few friends, that doesn't, like, you know, highlight American its best picture.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I think she's a bit overqualified. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Yes.
Because she doesn't necessarily quantify average, and that's not really giving the foreign leader the big picture, or not necessarily the whole thing, where it's kind of not doing justice of the idea of an average student. So, obviously, she's very talented. Obviously, if she was put in this situation, she would handle it perfectly well. The ambassador or / foreign leader would enjoy his time there, but again, she's not necessarily an average student. I'd say she ranks high up there. We'll say for now.
Yeah.
We'll look at all the other cases, but right now she currently has a compelling case to have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's see what else there is.
All right, so next up is Carmen Solis. She's a senior as well. She's a captain of the drill team. She's a C student. She's active in theater.
Will be in frame.
Sorry about that. The recording just cut out. So we were on Carmen Solis, and we were talking about basically, I guess we were explaining what she's in. So, like we said before, she's a senior, captain of the drill team. She's a C student, active in theater, well liked by everyone. Has a steady boyfriend, very social. She's going to a local college due to financial strain on her family, but she plans to invite the leader to a football game. So, I personally think Carmen is what constitutes as average. She's driven, clearly. She's captain of the drill team. But she's not like extremely smart. She's a C student, which is fine. She's not. That shouldn't penalize her or anything. If anything, that literally quantifies as average.
Yeah.
And she's very well active inside the community, and I think she really epitomizes what a high school student is.
Well, along those lines of like what a high school student is, she plans on taking the leader to a football game. I mean, I think that defines part of the high school experience. I mean, you know, earlier Ling Cho was talking about taking to a Museum of Natural Science, which is great and all. But, you know, I don't feel like that constitutes what an average high school student does. You know, we see tons of high school students at football games. So I feel like this is a great role model for what a high school student is every day.
And I think especially because she does have financial strain from a family of 8, right? Or we do have a lot of, you know, families in America that struggle. So I think that just because of that little tidbit, you know, the leader could see like, oh, although she is, you know, a little bit in the downside with like economics wise, she does want to go to college and still has like driven like the drive and goals.
Yeah, I think it's like when you think of like stereotypical like high school experiences in America, she has a lot of like those attributes like drill team and like she wants to take him to a football game, which is like, yeah, it's just like a really common thing when it comes to high school.
Right.
So overall, I think she makes a better case than Ling Cho, in my opinion, where she definitely quantifies more as average in our definition of that.
Yeah.
All right, and so next up is Jada Williams. She's a junior. She's in AP Art. She's president of the art club. She's won several local and state awards for her artwork. She was on So Track until they discovered her dyslexia. She's generally quiet but very personable. She's considered an overachiever, and she hopes to be an artist someday. She thinks the leader might like to spend the time in an art gallery and museum. So, Daniel, any thoughts first?
I would say this kind of falls under the criteria of like being very passionate about some activity. Like you can see she's very involved in art. And not only that, but she's very talented. She's won awards for it. So I feel like this definitely defines, you know, a student who's passionate. I think the one problem I have is everything seems very art related. I don't know that she's branched out. Like high school students like to be part of multiple activities. Like earlier, Carmen was, you know, part of drill team, but she was in theater as well, and she wanted to go to the football games. So I feel like that kind of hurts Jada's case just a little bit.
Joey?
I do think that she does show struggle and she tries to overcome it, right, with her dyslexia. But at the same time, she's generally quiet but very personal. And, you know, most high school students are a little bit out there in terms of like, you know, being sociable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, the average high school student isn't necessarily like president of the art club.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
good point.
And like, while I think taking like the president to a art gallery would be pretty like, I don't know how to say it, enlightening for American like culture.
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
think it would necessarily be like a good decision.
Yeah, especially because we're trying to represent like high school life. Yeah,
Also,
I agree.
she's. I think a big key is that she's very quiet, and obviously, if she's going to be with a world leader, she has to talk a lot more. She has
Yeah,
to be able to talk
exactly.
to her, so that might be a little bit harder for her
Mhm.
necessarily. And she is driven. That is one of our definitions of an average student. But in a way, she's more driven to one thing, which is fine. She's obviously going to have a great case, and in her future, she has a lot to go forward with, especially for art. But I think on that front is she might not necessarily be the type of person that would enjoy the experience necessarily, which would
Right.
hinder it in some way.
Yeah.
So I guess that was Jada Williams.
Okay.
I personally think right now the strongest cases are Lane Cho and Carmen
Yeah.
uh,
So,
for now. So next is Bahir Haddad. I believe that is the name. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. He's a senior. He's an AB student, active in debates, often advocates to change school policy for the better, completes regularly in mock trials and debates on current issues. He's generally well liked, but was suspended last year for a fight after an emotional outburst likely to his parents' divorce. And he's accepted to Georgetown, and he plans to take the leader to debate competition. Obviously, first off, Bahir is a very smart student, right? And he's driven as well. He's in the debate.
mhm.
But like we said earlier, the biggest problems is we have to have someone that's very respectful and mannerful. And obviously, he's a very talented student. He seems like he's good, but there is that one thing where he did get into a fight last year because of
Right.
and was suspended,
Mhm.
which perhaps he's changed, obviously, for the better, especially if he's going to Georgetown. But that it's still a thing that might not shine right
Yeah.
in the eyes of a foreign leader if he was to help.
hmm I will say one of the things I'm noticing, he's in debate and he advocates to change school policy. He sounds like he's a very vocal person, so that could help in connecting with the world leader. You know,
That's a good
he would
point.
be great at conversation, great at like talking and understanding and discussing different matters. So I mean, there is that side to that, but you definitely have to weigh that with the con that he had an emotional outburst, and so we don't know if that could happen again.
And also, clearly, if that's a tense situation, and being with foreign leaders is already a tense situation as is,
Yes.
that might not fare well, or that's at least a risk to think about for sure.
Yeah.
So, any of you two?
I think definitely with this current trends, you know, in 2019, we have seen an increase in divorce rates, and so that does reflect, you know, very high with the student, and he is active in the debate. However, you know, I don't think it'd be very like good for this leader to think that, you know, all our students are, you know, very like violent, but have a tendency to have violent outbursts. And he is very good in debate and a smart student, but he has failed to kind of branch out and try other things, which
Right.
I think
Similar to
does.
Jada's problem with
Yes.
art.
I think so as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think he's got some good, like, you know, common attributes, like the AB student and like active in debate. This is an activity, but I mean, yeah, I think the emotional outburst kind of,
Kind of renders it all wrong.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not necessarily, it's not to harp on it. It's not a, obviously things happen like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just I guess in this situation, it wouldn't be ideal.
Mhm.
So the next up is Jacob Jones. He's a junior. He's a C student. Drives a motorcycle. Visible tattoos. Self-confident. Well liked by both students and teachers. Has a good sense of humor. Started a recycling project at school that has become successful and copied by other high schools. He plans to take the leader to a recycling center. So Jacob is he's a assortment of things, right? So obviously he seems average in the regard that he's a C student and other things like that. But he seems driven, like he's a good student. But there's also a thing that kind of I guess can seen as suspect in a way, where it's he has visible tattoos and as a junior.
Right,
So
and he
it's-
drives a motorcycle.
and he
It
drives a
comes-
motorcycle.
It comes off a little bit, I don't know, it comes off a little bit strong for like just
Strong.
an average teenager.
And just like, a little bit more juvenile, for
Right.
lack of a better term. It's
Yeah.
like it seems like there's definitely red flags that could go wrong immediately from there. But he does seem like a good kid. Obviously, he's liked by students and teachers, and he's funny. He's obviously very personable. He has
Yeah.
good charisma.
I will say the fact that he participates in like recycling projects also shows he has like compassion and care, especially for the environment. So I mean that could help in like his personable skills, just like being able to understand people and being able to, care about the conversation and
Right.
Might I add that a recycling center isn't necessarily something that defines American culture, right? I definitely think that a football game, right, where multiple students are, participating, right, multiple students are cheering on the other team, right, I think that definitely highlights more of what American culture is rather than a recycling center.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like taking the leader to a recycling center is kind of like oddly specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really like an average thing that an average high school student would do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that's. But,
Yeah.
Personally, I think he does quantify average in a way. I think he does everything. I mean, yeah, maybe the recycling center is not obvious, but like he does represent, I guess, an American teenager, or American in a way, with like motorcycle,
Yeah.
all those things like that. But like,
I mean,
and he's charisma. He has.
Yeah.
I think he would be okay in talking to him. But again, appearances, even though they can be deceiving for the better, appearances are still there and they have a stigma attached to them. So
Right.
maybe the foreign leader might not bode well for it.
Well,
if that makes sense.
one of the things I might add is the fact that he is okay with tattoos and driving a motorcycle. Like that could define, the fact that we have this freedom of speech. I mean, like
Right.
our high school students, they express themselves in different ways. So you could say that, like, while it might, not appear, the most professional, it definitely could still fall under the criteria of defining an average student. So it's just weighing, whether it's more important to be professional or, more important to be.
So I think that is fair.
Yeah.
Overall, so that's all of these students we've gone over.
Okay.
I guess now I think we should all come up with our top two. So for me
Okay.
personally, I think my top two are Carmen Solis and Jacob Jones. For the reason is they really do showcase like in an average in a good way, and they do look like that. I think Jacob, there's some doubts or downsides with his appearance,
Right.
but he does seem like a good kid, and he does seem like he could do well doing it. And Carmen, I think personally, she is showcasing American culture very well with what she does, and she quantifies an average student that's driven, but also does everything around them and acts respectful in a way.
Right. Did you want to say something?
Oh no.
Okay. I will say, like, I think my top two, it definitely is Carmen, but it's also Jada. And the only reason I say that is because, again, she seems very active and very talented. And although she is quiet, I think her talent and her passion for art would definitely define, like, a high school student. And with Carmen, like, she's clearly very active with a lot of the stuff that she does.
Yeah, riding off of that, I think my top two are Carmen and Jada, and they really show they show struggle and they show growth out of that struggle. I'm a big believer that with struggle and failure, like in hardships, there has to be that growing point. I think that Jada and Carmen, they definitely try to overcome that or try to work around it. It just seems that like that kind of describes American culture,
Yeah.
right? With the whole idea of the American dream,
Mm-hmm.
topics as such.
I think my top two would be Carmen and what is it? Bahir.
Mahir?
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
because I mean they both show that like the average high school student isn't perfect. Everyone has like hard times and they have to like overcome that.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. So
Do we need to narrow it down now?
I guess so. I think the commonality in this is Carmen is definitely in the top two.
Yeah.
Because we all agree that she should be in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up, so we have I chose Jacob. Both of you chose Jada, and then you chose Bahir. So
I fall in line with what Joey's saying about this whole like struggle but still pushing through. I definitely think that defines American culture.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do
I
you
feel
think?
I think Jada's driven, but I think she's too driven in a way. So that doesn't really pop.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about this earlier. It's about an average student that showcases everything, right?
Right.
And she just shows she's mainly related to art, and that's more of a niche type student, which isn't wrong or anything. But it's just for the showcase what we're trying to do with foreign president, it doesn't seem ideal.
Okay.
Jacob, on the
That
other
makes
hand, I believe does truly showcase an
Yeah.
average student that helps well, and in a way, I think he'd be very personal in talking to a figure like that.
Okay, I can see
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I'd say like if Jacob Jones
Mhm.
comes in like third for me, but I think the reason he's on my second is because he has tattoos, which might be like a turn off for the leader because he might not be like used to that.
Okay.
I don't know.
But at the same time, I think he outweighs Jada in a way that
Yeah.
is more
Yeah.
personable. I think he would work better with the president than she would, just because she's very quiet and she mainly sticks to doing.
Yeah,
other stuff, and
I
she's
see.
never
I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I mean, we don't want somebody that's gonna be quiet. We need somebody that's
Yeah.
gonna- yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
in that regard, do you guys change your top two in any way, or do you think?
I mean, I still like my top two, but I'm okay with like accepting Jacob Jones into the top two.
Yeah.
I mean,
Over
clearly
Jada?
it's Carmen, and yeah, it's.
Over Jada?
I mean, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
What about you, Rory?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with Jacob being in top.
So do
two.
we all agree that our top two are going to be Carmen Solis and Jacob Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah, we can do that.
All right, so
Okay.
those are our two possible solutions. So we figured out Jacob Jones and Carmen Solis.
Okay.
All right, next up, we basically need to evaluate each and choose the best one.
Okay.
Personally, for me, I think Carmen takes it out of everyone by a long
Yeah,
mile.
let's see.
She's average in the greatest of ways. She seems personable. She seems respectful. She and culminates American culture for the better. I think she would really show the president what American life is like.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that our best way to evaluate each solution is to have an interview, right? And I think
Right.
Carmen would, work exceptionally well in that interview. She's well liked by everybody, and she's very social,
Well-
often dominates conversation.
You said well liked by everybody, but you'll notice Jacob Jones is well liked by both students and teachers. So I mean, you have
Yeah.
these two very likable
Right.
people. It's gonna be very difficult, but I see where you're coming.
I think
from.
she's more well versed in high school culture.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely, I can
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah. I mean,
You agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So so if you guys vote for Carmen, I guess raise your hand.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah.
So by a long shot, a unanimous vote, we vote for Carmen.
Yeah.
So that's perfect. So Carmen, nothing wrong with Jacob or any of the other students
Right.
necessarily, but she doesn't culminate having an average student. She's driven. She is in everything. She likes high school. She seems like she's personable. She seems like she'd be respectful amongst helping and show.
Right.
And I think so. Now our next goal is we've evaluated, and so we've talked about Jacob again.
Yeah,
he's a good student, but necessarily there's some red flags in his appearance that might rub people the wrong way.
Right.
Unfairly so, but I guess
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
reason. And so lastly, basically, we must suggest ways for figuring out the solution. So what should we tell Carmen, and what should she follow in order to make this go as smoothly as possible for her?
Well, I think it would help to have her, because one of the things that she's going to have to do is just show around the school. So I don't think it would hurt to have us watch her or just have her take a new student around the school. I mean, it's a similar thing. Where
I think she should
if
treat it
could-
the same way.
Yeah, she
I think
treat
it should be
yeah.
the same way as having a new
Yeah.
student
Right.
come to the school.
I think if she can demonstrate like that she can take a new student around the school and give them all the
Oh, so you're
information
saying they
need.
do that beforehand?
Yeah,
until she
I'm
does that.
saying like she should.
Okay,
actually,
that's a good
yeah,
idea.
And then
I
like
think so.
we can test her out and see how she actually.
So yeah,
does.
practice with this new student. Obviously, a new
Yeah.
student's not the caliber of like a president. or
Yeah,
foreign
yeah,
leader,
we can't.
But it would be a good practice bit, and then from then on, I guess you should treat it as that
Yeah.
because he's basically just trying to follow their daily lives. He's not trying to have any special treatment. He's not trying to do any of that. I think that would constitute that. You guys, do you have any other suggestions?
No, I definitely think having a little bit like a little tour of the school, and then kind of talking about the football games and what it means for American culture. I think that's definitely a good way.
Yeah, I think she should explain some stuff too.
Yeah.
She should. I think she should be able to. I don't think she should have an itinerary. I think she should just follow her daily plan necessarily.
Yeah.
I think she should come up with her own itinerary, and then we come.
And see if we
And like she said, like we see, I don't think we have a problem with anything she plans to do. Going to a football game, it seems like an American culture thing.
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
I
So-
think with her following her own itinerary and her making the decision, I think that best highlights America's freedom of expression,
Yeah.
right? Where we get to choose what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. We don't have to tell her you're gonna be doing this. I think,
Exactly.
and I definitely think she'll be able to take charge and like just show someone around. She seems to demonstrate, the ability to just be like passionate and driven, like we've talked about. And so I think she'll be responsible enough to just like, this is what my life is, and I'm just gonna show you what it is.
So Rory, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you. I was just asking, do you think there's going to be any problems necessarily with this situation, or is there anything we should look out for, just in case we should plan for ahead? I mean, obviously she seems like a good person, but accidents or anything, God forbid, does happen. So
I mean,
no.
I'm trying to think. Like,
Yeah,
I feel very confident in like our decision.
I do too. I feel
Yeah,
very confident. So
yeah.
do we all agree? Carmen Solis, everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can.
All right. So with that, thank you guys so much for helping me, taking the time. This has been a very productive meeting, and we figured out what we're going to do. And so I guess I can conclude this meeting, and I think Carmen Solis is the ideal candidate for an average student.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Daniel.
Yep.
Once again, thank you, Joey. Thank you, Rory. My name is Naimur Rahman, and thank you so much.